So you don't know what is mean stack? Well, in this video, we are going to discuss what is mean stack. So after watching this video, you will have the exact idea what we mean by mean stack. Hello everyone, and I'm Avinash, and in this video, we are going to discuss about mean stack. Now, this is quite a famous framework, I should say, and a lot of people are actually using it. A lot of big companies are using it. So in detail, we are going to discuss what is mean stack, what you're supposed to learn, what are the different companies are using it, and what are the different components which are part of mean stack. Okay, so first thing first, let's try to understand the full form of mean stack and what are the components of it. So with mean stack, it means MongoDB, Express.js, Angular, and Node. So obviously you can see MEAN, and this is what mean stack is consisting of. It consists MongoDB, which actually holds the database. Express.js is sort of a backend, if I may. Angular is the front end, and Node is the platform on which this backend runs. So this is what mean stack consists of, and this is what are the components inside a mean stack. Okay, now obviously there is a big question around the industry, like why should I be worried about what is mean stack? I mean, fine, there is another stack, why should I learn that? So let's try to understand why you need to learn mean stack and why this is getting important. Okay, so now I have taken a screenshot from Google Trends, and obviously you can verify that. What I've compared two things: mean stack, which is in red, and lemp stack, which is in blue. Now you can see this bluish line is obviously not increasing as much, but you can see this mean stack has grown a lot. Now what does that signify? It signifies that if you have the expertise of lamp stack, well, obviously now companies are looking for something, and the people who have the talent of mean stack compared to lamp stack for a very specific reason. This is a new technology. It consists all the latest things which are supposed to be part of an application, and finally it is very easy to get started, and that is why companies are investing in it, and that is why as an individual you should be caring about what is mean stack, and this is the reason why you should be learning what is mean stack. Okay, now let's focus on the first component of mean stack, which is MongoDB. Now obviously, as you can see, if you're not aware of what is MongoDB, you can see from this name, it is a database. So first of all, MongoDB is a NoSQL database. It does not have a schema. Just like MySQL has a schema, MongoDB does not have a schema. So that is why it has no fixed schema, unlike MySQL or MS SQL. Secondly, the data is stored in JSON format, unlike a structured format which we have in sort of a relational databases you can consider as MySQL. And finally, it is free and open source. So this gives us the opportunity as an individual to actually get into the technology and start using it. And obviously, if you like to learn more about what is MongoDB, obviously this is the particular website where you can go and you can start learning about what is MongoDB and how you can start using it. Okay, now obviously your question could be, what are the advantages you're going to get with MongoDB compared to MySQL, which is a relational database? So obviously I've not listed all of them, but here are a few advantages. It has unstructured schema. So obviously these days we have real-time events and a lot of things which are coming from n number of resources where we do not know the exact structure of it. So MongoDB is a very good component here which we can use for our unstructured data. Secondly, you should be using it when your data is not related. So obviously some data is coming from somewhere else, some data is coming from somewhere else, and it has no relation at all. And finally, it is good for big data projects because obviously since it is not connected, since it is not structured, if I may, so you can actually use your enhanced big data analytics sort of a thing, your query skills, to actually have a very good advantage in the big data projects. So these are the few advantages which we get from the MongoDB. Okay, so if MongoDB has this kind of advantages, is the company using it? Are people using it? So obviously I don't have to remind what these logos stand for. This stands for Facebook, this stands for SAP, this stands for Google, eBay, and EA Sports, obviously. Now, the advantage we get here is, obviously we have discussed the advantages. Now the question is why these companies are using it. For a very simple reason, it gives them the power which is sort of missing from the structured schema, and I should not say this, but if these companies are using it, obviously this technology is worth it and we can actually start using it, or maybe we can start trying something out of it. Okay, now the second component, it stands for Express, which has E in it. Now, if I have to be very honest with you, Express is a MVC framework for Node.js application. So this is going to be a framework on which you are going to build your application, which runs on a platform of Node.js. It is obviously free and open source. And in case if you need to learn more about what is Express.js and how to get started with it, obviously this is the right link for you to visit, and you can get started and you can start learning what is Express.js. Okay, so fine, MongoDB is a great part of it, but why should I need to learn a new MVC framework? I'm using Laravel, I'm using .NET framework. Why should I learn a new framework, especially if I talk about in terms of Express? So the advantages we get is it is simple and lightweight. This is one of the biggest advantage I would say we have with Express.js. Secondly, it blends well with main stack. Now we will discuss why, but obviously it blends very well. Secondly, third point is that it is easy to configure and get started, if I may. And finally, the most important point of Express.js is, since it is lightweight, it is one of the best framework, this is my personal opinion, for creating APIs. Because obviously when you want to simply create APIs, there are so many things which are involved. You're using different kind of tools, you're using different kinds of platform, and if you want to integrate them, it gets very, very hectic. But if we start with Express, it gets very easy. Okay, so the question is companies using Express.js? So obviously companies are, Uber is using it, Myntra is using it, Yandex is using it, Accenture is using it, QuizUp, one of the startups which is also using Express. Now the very specific reason I would say why they are using it, because it is very easy to get started and it is lightweight, which gives these company an ample amount of opportunity to be flexible, which is obviously required and the need of the hour. Okay, now A stands for Angular in main stack. Now, obviously, I would say this framework sits at the client end of your application. So this is an MVC framework which stands at the client end, which is basically something which is visible for the user. Secondly, it helps you create highly interactive applications. Now, the advantage we get with Angular is, since it is customizable, since it is updated quite easily, and since it is highly interactive, like it is basically, someone would say it is HTML on steroids, because for a very simple reason, you can actually enhance the power of your HTML, I would say, tags with the help of Angular. So that is why a lot of companies use it. Now, one of the big advantage it gets, it's free and open source. And finally, if you want to learn about Angular, you can actually visit this particular link. But one thing which I want to mention before I move ahead, with Angular, we get the advantage that it is maintained by Google. It is maintained by Google. So the advantage we get this, like whatever expertise Google has in their own infrastructure, if I may, is actually used in Angular to make sure that it is up to date and it is as latest as it can be. Okay, so what are the advantages we get with Angular? So first of all, it helps us creating cross-platform applications. So like you can create applications for your mobile phone, you can create applications for your desktop, and you can obviously create applications for your web. Now this gives a very big advantage, because obviously if I'm a developer and I have to make sure that I have to support multiple platforms, I cannot rewrite for every single platform. So it is better I use something known as Angular, so that I get the advantage of cross-platform application development compared to just a single platform application development. Secondly, it has great support for creating progressive web applications. So obviously, what is progressive web app? We have a separate video on that, but if I may, it gives us the advantages, or I should say the capabilities of native Android application or iOS applications which provide. This thing which I've already discussed, it is backed by Google, so you don't have to worry about things. And finally, it helps you create single page applications which are sort of event driven. I would not say that they are exactly event driven, but yes, they provide us the great advantage, and it gives a best user experience a user can get, because obviously this enhances and it makes your application faster compared to the other platforms, if I may. Okay, now the question is company using Angular? So obviously this is a big name. So Microsoft is using it, JP Morgan Chase is using it, Apple is using it, UPS is using it. So you can understand this particular platform, if I may, or I should say framework, has so much capabilities that these big giants are using it for their projects, for their client projects, or whatever that is. And obviously I've not mentioned Google because obviously this is the company who is maintaining this particular project. Okay, so finally N, and N stands for Node.js. Now what is Node.js? Node.js is obviously an application, I would say, or a platform which helps us write applications using JavaScript. And obviously if you are aware of it, and if you're not aware of it, this is the brief introduction I have given you what is Node.js. And obviously we will have a very separate video related to Node.js because that is a very good technology, if I may. But if I talk about in terms of what Node.js helps us, it helps you write applications with JavaScript in server. So basically what happens, previously when we were not using mean stack, what used to happen, I had to learn a different language for the backend and I have to learn a separate language for the front end. But what Node.js is giving me as an advantage, that I don't have to learn different languages for different kind of platforms. I just have to learn one language, which is JavaScript, and I can create applications which can run on server, which can obviously run on the client end. Secondly, it is obviously free and open source. It is cross-platform, so I don't have to worry about the platform. Whatever platform I'm using it works there. And obviously if you want to learn more about Node.js, you can visit to this particular URL to get the more information about the platform of Node.js. Okay, now what are the advantages we get with Node.js? So obviously it uses asynchronous programming. That means this line of code, this line of code, this line of code, this can execute before this line can execute, because for obvious reason this supports asynchronous programming. Secondly, which I have already discussed, no need to learn a new language to create application on server. And finally, it helps you create real-time web applications. Now I want to mention one thing, again a spoiler. Obviously I don't need and I don't have to rely on Node to create a real-time application, but yes, this has the capabilities inbuilt. So I don't have to search for a plugin, if I may, or a new library, or I should say different stuff, which I have to integrate with my application, then test it with the different platforms I'm using, and then start using the capabilities of real-time web applications. And last but not the least, who is using Node? So obviously PayPal is using Node.js, LinkedIn is using Node.js, Yahoo is using Node.js, and Netflix, which is obviously something which you might be looking just after watching this video, is using Node.js for their application which they are probably building. And obviously I cannot comment that this is the specific part which is being consumed, or I should say built on Node.js, but obviously these are the companies which is documented on this particular blog, that these companies are using Node.js. Okay, so in the end, I would like to conclude what are the advantages you get with mean stack. So first of all, you need to learn a single language, if I may. One language from front end to back end, that is it. Secondly, it is free and open source, so you don't have to pay any licensing fee. And obviously, if you want to know more about mean stack, you can visit this particular link and you can understand more about this particular platform. So that is it, what is mean stack, and I hope you learned what is MongoDB, what is Express, what is Angular, and what is Node.js. But yes, you have some questions. The questions can be asked in the comment section, but if you want to understand that should you learn mean stack, you're coming from a different location, you're coming from a different programming background, you're coming from a different IT background, if I may, altogether, and you're worried, should you make the jump and start learning mean stack so you can give your career the exact growth which you are looking for? In that case, I would suggest there is a link in the description of this video where you can actually reach to that link, fill in the details, and someone from our team will actually reach you out and they will assist you what is the right path or what is the right way for you to learn mean stack. And obviously, if you're looking for specialized training, you can request us and someone from our team will actually help you cater that. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.